Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Residency and Money podcast, a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I'm Tony Guerra, pharmacist and publisher, bringing you help succeeding in your career, health, and wealth before, during, and after residency. You can sign up for the email list at pharmacyresidencypodcast.com to get your free LOI template or get editing help working one-on-one with me at residency.teachable.com. All right. Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast. I just wanted to talk about this season. Again, I haven't really published a podcast in quite a long time, and I just made a commitment to be with my daughters. I have three 13-year-olds, so I've just been busy with them and made the decision to commit my time to them, and so I haven't really done much of anything with the podcast. But there's 500 episodes of content, so basically every problem you can come into coming into residency, I've already recorded something for it. But I did want to tell you, I'm gonna just make my course available free, or I have a coupon for it. Traditionally, what I do is I would work one-on-one with you to help you with your letters of intent. And I say, okay, well, here's the course, go into the course, prepare the draft, and then I fix it. So I'm just giving you a coupon that you can, if you want to go into the Extreme LOI Makeover course, you're welcome to do it. The coupon is Memorizing 2024. So Memorizing, all caps, MEMORIZING, then 2024. So all caps. And this just gets you the course. If you still want to do one-on-one with me, that's fine. I would do it. Just email me at tonythepharmacist@gmail.com, and we'll figure it out if you want to pay that fee. But I want to make the course available to everybody. I understand a lot of schools either don't have a residency course or have a residency course so early that it's really kind of tough to get the most out of it, just because when you really need it is in November, when you've just opened up. We've got about a week, a little bit less than a week before it opens up, and I'll go over some of that match schedule with you. But I'm just somebody who fixes it. So if you want to talk to somebody about, your feelings and what all you've been doing over the last 3 years or 4 years, that's not me. I just fix it. So you give me about a page and a half, and I will make it a page, and it will be exactly what it should be. But I'm going to give you a couple of warnings here with letters of intent, especially with AI available. Chat GPT has a nickname, Cheat GPT, from time to time, and there's a reason it's got that name. It's has no morality. It just goes and pulls the answer from wherever it can pull it. So if you're trying to use ChatGPT for your letter of intent, it'll give you a letter of intent, and you can say, hey, I would like a letter of intent for this particular residency, taking in these particular characteristics of the residency, and it'll do it, right? But what happens is it does the exact same thing for someone else, because it says, all right, well, I've already done this for Bob on the West Coast, and here's Jane on the East Coast that wants to do a letter of intent too. Well, I've already done this. I'm not going to do it over again. I'll just use the one I used for Bob. Then Joe, who is not the residency director, but the resident, gets both of your applications and sees that they're identical. It says, what's going on here? How do Bob and Jane even know each other, right? And then they realize that, oh, you used ChatGPT to make your letter of intent. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, make me a letter of intent, and starting from there. There really isn't. But if you turn that in as your own, that's a very different thing. Not just because it's not your own, but because the most important thing with residency is being remembered. When you write the exact same thing someone else does, especially that first sentence, which drives me absolutely crazy, I want to express my sincere interest. There's absolutely nothing sincere about using the exact same words as somebody else. There's no sincerity in that. So I don't know I know exactly where it came from. It came from the UCSF template for pharmacy residency hopefuls. And those are the exact words. I want to express my sincere interest. And then it has this kind of a moniker where you go, I want to express my sincere interest. It was a pleasure to meet you at ASHP in 2024 or whatever year it is. And I just wanted to tell you how much I admire your program and I feel like it would be a great fit for me and so on, because you haven't been trained to write papers in the last 3 or 4 years. So why would it make sense for this to be easy for you to do now? And I get it. It's like, well, the challenge is to write a one-page paper about yourself, right? How hard would that be? Well, it's not that. It's that you are summarizing the 3 or 4 years in the past in one page. In addition, it has to match all of the things that they're looking for. So if you're going to, I don't know, let's look at a top program like Penn, right? Penn has very highly clinical rotations that you need to do and that are not elective. And the more appies you have that match those, the better. And so, you can say, okay, you have a cardiology rotation. I did a cardiology rotation. You have ambulatory care clinic with heart failure. I did ambulatory care clinic with heart failure, and so on. You say, look, we're such a good match. And what most people do is they do this kind of like, look at all the things that I've done. Well, that doesn't really work. So in the course is a ton of content on all of these things that you have to do. And so the question is, will you become a student of the process? And the more you become a student of the process, the better you're going to be. So let's talk about what's in it. And again, this is what I would just give somebody who says, okay, I want to work one-on-one with you. Say, okay, we'll, watch the course, look at how to do the letter of intent, the template, which is in part 2, and, give me your template and what you've actually written, and then we will solve it for you. We will write it down for you and fix it. And you say, well, I'm a pretty good writer. I don't need you to fix it. I've written 500 of these, I assure you. And I'm an English major and I've done PhD work in English. I assure you, I will crush your letter. So when you look at the one thing I usually hear back after, when every once in a while I actually get tears. That's exactly what I wanted to say about myself and blah, blah, blah. But the one thing that I usually hear back is like, oh my gosh, that's what I wanted to say. That's how I wanted to say it. And it's just a skill. It's just a skill that takes a long time to figure out. The amount of years it takes to write academic papers from somebody who doesn't speak English to somebody who does is 8 years. Okay. So that's somebody who's probably already speaking some English, but to go to academic English, it's like 8 years. So it's a skill, and it's a skill you don't need to get because it's just a one-off. Right? I mean, your plumber comes in, you go, well, while you're doing this, could you show me how to fix this and how to, install we just did this in our own house. Can you show me how to install a toilet? And for us, it was actually a good idea. It only cost us $200 instead of $1,000. But, generally that's not what you do. You're just like, just fix it for me. I'm so busy. I don't have time for this. Okay. So if you're just fix it and you need that, and TonyThePharmacist@gmail.com, email me that you want me to just fix it and we'll figure it out. But let me tell you what's on here. So the first thing is understanding the residency application, what it's all about. Um, Things have changed quite a bit. I wanted to say easier to get a residency, but what I want to say is it's more likely that you're going to get a residency that you really want. That's less about like making you work every other weekend. So there's a lot of to it. So the more you want to become a kind of a student of this, the more you can. But there's just 2 hours just even beginning with the residency application. Most people run right to this part 2, which is, okay, let me write this letter of intent and let me become a student of this. And the letter of intent, people misunderstand so much. You are, yes, you're checking a box and you're writing the letter of intent for them. But what you're really doing is kind of answering the question of why am I choosing this place out of the 4,000 available, right? And that's the biggest mistake anyone can make is to apply to the wrong place. If you apply someplace because of their prestige, if you apply for all those reasons, it will go badly. But if you apply to a place that matches you, they will see it and they will hear it in your voice. They will see it in your application and it will be a good match. There is a reason the process works. There is a reason there's so many people that get their first, second, and third choices because as annoying as this process is, it works. And generally, you are going to match with a residency that matches you, but not if you are not honest, not if you have not taken the time to figure out what you really want. And it's not the easiest thing to do, but I will tell you that as you're writing the letter, and I like using North Carolina as a good example, so many people want to do the North Carolina residency, one of the top residencies in the country. And what they do is they start writing it and they start trying to match, and it doesn't fit. They feel like a round, what is it, the round circle on the square peg. And they're like, "Oh, man, I'm kind of forcing this. It's not really working." And then if they're honest with themselves, it's like, well, I just really wanted to just stay kind of close to home and go to this residency. And then they start writing the letter for that one. And all of a sudden the words flow and it's a conversation. So it's no different than speed dating when you're like going to somebody and the conversation is not working at all. You're just like trying to force it versus being with somebody that does match you and does kind of fit with, what you care about, and it does work. So again, it's called the match for a reason because we're trying to match, right? So next thing is how to write your letter of intent. And again, what I would ask you to do if you want to work with me, it's $95 for the two letters. I don't do just one unless you're PGY2 or something like that. But when we're doing it, I'm going to ask you to use this template to get your thoughts down. And it was never meant to be the final product. So many people use this as the final product. It is not. It's just like high school English. The reason you're getting a C is because you only wrote one version. Okay, I'll fix it. Just send it to me and I will fix it. Okay. All right. Well, that's part two. Part three is figuring out the CV. And I've seen both directions on this one where, you've got the ones that have all of the details, like the UCSF ones, and I think that's the better way to go. Other people put no details. And the problem with that is if somebody's interested in you, they have to do extra work to find out more about you, if they even can. And that is an obstacle. So my personal preference, put the 3 bullet points, put the 3 things that you did at each site. That's a much better way to go. Okay. The residency interview, I put quite a bit of information here about how mistakes people have made and so forth. Brandon Dyson and I wrote a book, 100 Strong Residency Interview Questions, Answers, and Rationales. We even got 2 narrators, so it would sound like an interview to do it. Again, the interview is an affirmation. Okay, so the interview is you are qualified if you are at the interview. But the question is, do you really match? And do you really want to go there? And it'll become pretty apparent in the first couple of hours, like, this just is not fitting for me. I thought it was this, it ended up being that. It's most of you guys have not applied to a lot of colleges of pharmacy. I'm guilty of that. I applied to one, I got into one. But when I went to undergrad, my choices were as disparate as you could get. I got turned down by Dartmouth, so I did apply to an Ivy. I got waitlisted and denied by University of Virginia. It was out of state. Painfully, it was 4 miles out of state. So like if I was on the other, if I could swim, I could literally swim across the Potomac River to Virginia. I could walk and swim to Virginia, but they wouldn't let me in. And then Florida accepted me, Maryland accepted me, and I think Delaware accepted me. I'd have to look and see if I ever even applied. I don't even remember. And so I ended up going to Florida for 2 years and coming back to Maryland. And then that's when I ended up going to pharmacy school. But that whole thing was a process of going to Gainesville and seeing if I liked it, going to College Park and seeing if I liked it, going up to Delaware, seeing if I liked it. I really did love UVA. I was so bummed when I didn't get in. And I am actually, although I was born in Washington, D.C., apparently we lived a small part of our life in Virginia. We almost ended up living in Virginia. My cousins lived in Virginia. I loved the Edgar Allan Poe thing. Anyway, I just love Virginia. And I didn't get in and it never worked out. So I never became a Wahoo or whatever. cavalier. But that was a process, and that process took time. And part of that process was writing the letters to the actual places. And even though I got rejected from Dartmouth, as I was writing, and I was like, I'm really doing this for prestige. I really, it was not a good fit. It didn't even like I was really saying, okay, only places with good engineering schools. And, I mean, Dartmouth is this Ivy out, and I would say it's one of the more social of the Ivies, but it's kind of rural, and I just wouldn't have enjoyed it. So instead, I went to a big SEC school, and it was an amazing time for 2 years in Florida and an amazing time for a year in Maryland, which is a ACC school at the time, now Big Ten. So, getting back to the point, the interview is really just it's going to show that you match or you don't. And everybody's like, how do I get ready? How do I answer the questions right? Well, you answer the questions competently, but your energy is going to show more than anything else. But I have, practice tips and all that stuff. Letters of recommendation, how to avoid mistakes. The biggest mistake to make is not asking the person. It's hard to do, but not asking the person if they can write a positive letter of recommendation for you. If they can't write a positive letter of recommendation for you, then that's not such a good thing, right? So you go to the next person. And I'm very candid with people like, hey, but I got a half decent grade and you're happy. Yeah, but, I don't know that for this, I feel like, it would be a good choice. Or I'd be like, yeah, I'd absolutely write you a great letter. And I am a very good person to have write a letter because my background in writing. Then the residency showcase, people make way too much about this. Do you need to go to the showcase to get a residency? No. Is it better to go to the showcases for the individual programs? Yes. Okay, remember, it's the residency showcase, not the future residence showcase. So it's for the people that are showcasing the residency so they can get more applications and better quality residents. And with the way the NAPLEX scores have been going and the MPJE scores are going, this is something they really, really need is top quality candidates because can you imagine being a residency director having to explain to your boss why the two residents that you hired both failed the NAPLEX and are both working as technicians? And why you're paying them residency salary to be technicians for another 45 days, right? So the risk has gone up and up and up now that we have closer to a NAPLEX pass rate in the 70s. Now, to be fair, the residency applicants tend to maybe be skewed on the high side of that. Maybe they're lower in the 80s, but I mean, some schools are quite low, and it is a real danger for them to take you from certain schools. Insider tips, people that have done the residency before, and then ranking the programs, how to do that, and then a little bit about phase two, just so you're aware. And then, hey, those of you that are already done with residency, here's how to do a clinical position cover letter and a template. If you want me to do that, I'll do it. But really, most of the people don't ask me for those kinds of cover letters. Every once in a while, like a dentist or a physician will, but I mean, I'll do it if you want me to. And then I was just way specific with this one, which is a pediatric letter of intent. If you hear something in the background, it's because we are getting massive thunderstorms here in central Iowa. All right. So anyway, the code is memorizing 2024 for your coupon for the course. All right. Well, let's talk about the schedule. So today is the 30th of October. November 5th, the registration opens, and you can see where you can kind of where you can see the programs that are participating. And I keep seeing people use this as a shopping list, which it sort of makes sense that way. But what I would really do is I would start thinking about where you want to be after the residency, because this is a step on the way there. And so if you want to be in another state working, well, you should probably do a residency in that state. If you want to stay home, and more than usually half will stay within the state they're in, that's fine too. So then mid-year, do you have to go to mid-year? No. Is it good to kind of get an idea what other people are doing? I think it is. I think that is good, but I tell you, when it comes to appies and those colleges that have not made extra time for that, a lot of times uh, your appy preceptor is not as forgiving as you would expect. You'd think they'd be like all about it, and a lot of times they're very much not all about it. So that's kind of a little disappointment. December 18th is the early commitment deadline for PGY2s to offer PGY1s through early commitment. I think early commitment is a really important thing, and I honestly wish they did early commitment with PGY1. You're like, well, how can you early commit somebody who's never been a resident? Well, I think, and again, this is my own opinion, that you are already probably second or third on the list before you even apply to a residency, because they've already got relationships with past appy students that were excellent, and they already know who they want. And maybe there's another spot or two after that. But honestly, I think that it would be awesome if they would just say, hey, we already have somebody. Can we just extend them an offer? We already know someone, but they don't allow that for PGY1. But I think that would be the way to go. Okay. Then you should register by December 31st, but honestly, it's probably too late by then. Phase 1 rankings open in February 18th, so they can, after their interviews, they can rank you and tell you where they think you should be. And then you can't register after March 6th, and then your list is due March 7th. And then March 19th is match results day. I don't know why they always make it during spring break. That's just a thing. And then you'll see the phase 2 positions. What's really valuable to know is if a place was phase 2 from last year, because if they were phase 2 from last year, why were they phase 2? Was it because their standards were very high? Or was it because nobody wants to work every other weekend at that place? A lot of different reasons to be phase 2, but it's a really valuable piece of information to know if it was phase 2 or not. And then phase 2 applications, it's crazy. It's so fast. It goes from March 19th to April 23rd. So it's like you've got that one thing that started in December or November that took 5 months. And all of a sudden now it only takes a month, right, for phase 2. And honestly, sometimes programs will hold off until phase 2 because they know that there are going to be many more applications for very few spots, and that they're going to get somebody really good in phase 2. So that's kind of here nor there. All right. Well, anyway, I just want to let you know if you want the course, it's available to you, Memorizing 2024. It's just an homage to my Memorizing Pharmacology books. I did write another book, Memorizing Multiplication. I know kids have trouble with the times tables, and I thought I'd take that one on. And next is coming Memorizing Biology, Memorizing Chemistry, Memorizing Dosage Calculation, Memorizing Anatomy, Memorizing Physiology, in my spare time, of course. But enjoy the course. Let me know what you think. And if you want to work one-on-one with me, TonyThePharmacist@gmail.com. This has been the Pharmacy Residency and Money Podcast, a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. You might want to check out our available residency audiobooks at pharmacyresidencypodcast.com/books, or you can get your first book free if you've never been on Audible before. You can work one-on-one with me to get a better residency that will better suit your career, health, and wealth at residency.teachable.com. Feel free to send an invite to Tony PharmD on LinkedIn or email me at tonythepharmacist@gmail.com. Music was by Policy.